938 Live gets you talking with The Breakfast Club.
Now, inspired by the natural world, photographer James Wilkins looks for a modern interpretation of traditional subjects. Now, namely through a unique printing technique using aluminium and a few other media that he's going to be telling us about in just a moment. The American fine arts photographer will be staging his first exhibition in Asia with newly established Gallery R at the Arts House. His series, called Origins, will address the relationship between the environment, spirituality, and beauty, and Gallery R will be contributing 10% of the proceeds to the World Wildlife Fund, Singapore. Wilkins will also be interpreting our very own Bukit Brown through his own lens, and will be engaging the Singapore media and public on July 17th for their insights and perspectives. The exhibition, by the way, is on from July 27th to 29th, and I'll be giving you more details later on in the show. Good morning, James. Welcome in. Now, James, let's talk about first the genesis and the spirit of Origins. What's really behind it?
Well, Origins represents many different levels in my work and the origins of my new relationship with Gallery R. The gallery was conceptualized by a young boy, Rohinish Gupta, who had seen my work in New York City and drew a profound correlation between the natural subject matter of my work and global warming concerns. That origin of him creating that, he's created a gallery based on this idea, and we have been sharing the idea with several different parts of the media and the public and private sector, and the response has been incredible. So over the short 8-week period that we've been working on this, we've created the work, flown it in from New York, gotten people like Nadia Hutagalong interested in it, all based on Rohinish's idea of connecting contemporary art and environmental concerns.
I've seen some of your previous work, and I noticed that you had a fascination with the palm tree at some point. You know, all these images of the leaves in various interpretations, actually. A lot of light emanating from each piece, too. Tell me more about your own affinity for the environment.
The environment is almost across the board the subject of my work. Different elements, whether it be palms or flowers or water, waves. And even then I use the elements of the environment to produce the work, with pushing wavelengths through images to create new forms. So in the series Palm Crest that you mentioned, yes, light is certainly one of the strongest elements in the collection. It's really what I see when I look at anything. I see kind of a spiritual light. I kind of feel drawn on a spiritual level to the subjects that I shoot. So when I see an image of a palm, it may be all green, but all I'm seeing really is the light. It's really a kind of a profound spiritual experience.
How did this happen to you, seriously? I mean, how did you come to see things in this manner?
It's funny, I feel like I've always been that way. It's just kind of I've always been interested in abstraction. So, and...
Do you know why, though? I mean, what was it that influenced your style? I think
I'm looking for a truer essence of things. To look beyond what we think we know about subjects and look deeper and get closer, and there you can see another plane of existence, really, another spiritual plane that reveals a lot about the subject and ourselves and our relationship, and again the whole concept of Rohinish's that ties all that together. It's really been an incredible experience for him to recognize that in my work, and then for Gallery R to invite me here to Singapore.
So what does it reveal exactly? What does all this work reveal? What does your interaction reveal? Because you said there have been lots of revelations, right?
Yeah, I think that there's new perspectives, viewing things a new way, creating humility about oneself, seeing oneself positioned in the universe, all of these things. And I think that also they're intimate revelations for each individual. Mine may not be the same as someone else's, but I aspire to, be causing some kind of transformation in the viewer seeing the work.
Okay, so give me an example of one of the most resonant revelations for you as you were working on some of these pieces.
Well, that things aren't as we believe them to be. There's greater meaning, there's greater details, there's greater essence to things than we ordinarily experience in our hurried lives. The works are very minimal, very clean, very still, and there's a quietude, a kind of meditation in that.
Yeah, I've seen some of your work as well. I mean, some of it looks very landscape oriented. I think you have pieces on resorts and things like that, you know. So what have you seen in those images? Well,
my commercial work is based on is generally architecture and interiors.
Right.
And the commercial work and my artwork do influence each other.
But is your commercial work purely just to pay the bills, or?
It is. I love architecture. I'm a huge fan, and I'm fascinated by the architecture here in Singapore as well.
So not too many revelations there for you, would you say?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. What did you see in the palm crests, for instance?
I saw kind of a new modernist icon. That there's a symbol. Part of that, looking deeper into things, I began seeing symbols, things that related to cultural touchstones, and across the board, whether they were, kind of Indian origin or Islamic origin or different elements. In some cases, just kind of pop art origins to things. So I've kind of tried to create, even sculpt new forms with the palms.
How did you get into photography? I understand you were very young.
I was young, yeah. I was 12 years old when I started shooting, and I actually started shooting flowers as my first subject, and I continue today to shoot flowers passionately.
What happened to you at the age of 12 to make this happen?
I think I was kind of a solitary child, and it was I kind of felt the desire to express myself and be creative visually, and I was always fascinated with the tangibles of photography, but also that it's intangible as well. Most people believe it to be a reality, but actually it's much more than just reality. I think it's much closer to painting, in fact. As equally as painting is creative and not an expression of reality, I think the photography can be also.
Let's talk about your technique. You say you use a printing technique using aluminium, other metallic paper as well.
Yes.
What exactly is this?
Well, the second half of the artistic expression is the print. The first half is the capturing of the image or the creating of the image, but equally important to the finished product is the print type, the print quality. So I have many different print types that I work with. I print on metallic paper, which has a kind of a luminescent pearl in the emulsion, which gives a kind of a different life to the highlights and to the illumination of the image. I also print directly on aluminum, where the highlights remain exposed aluminum and glint like jewelry in sunlight.
Yep, I can see it in the pictures, actually. There is this shine.
Certainly.
In various parts of the print. And of course it comes through differently depending on what exactly you're
the images and also what the print type. And the particular image kind of directs me to what print type is the most appropriate for the image.
How would you know then? After you have the print out?
Oftentimes, it's part of the process of creating the image. I can kind of determine throughout in the process.
So what really determines it? What factors determine?
The factors that determine what I want to try and communicate. Is this a quiet image? Is it a powerful image? There's images of water columns that I've created that show great power and great strength, and that request one type of thing. Other things that are very quiet and meditative, like the solar vibrations, they could go on a different print type.
Right, I'm looking at the solar vibrations and at least one piece of the collection. The one I'm looking at is rather crimson with a bright spot of light in the center.
Yes.
But it's all rather blurred in terms of its definition.
Yes.
What's that about?
It's about reducing what we think we know and getting to the true essence of something. That is just a light. It's not about seeing the details of the waves in the water. It's about seeing the spiritual light reflecting on the water.
All right, that sounds beautiful indeed, and it does look beautiful. I mean, I have the benefit of looking at it. So if you're out there and you're curious about what these prints look like, well, just Google James Wilkins or Gallery R, and you should be able to see some pictures. Now we'll be continuing speaking with James Wilkins about his Book It Brown project as well. Stay with us on 938 Live.
938 Live gets you talking with the Breakfast Club.
Talking this morning to fine arts photographer James Wilkins. He's in Singapore for an exhibition that will be happening from July 27th to 29th at Gallery R at the Arts House. And 10% of the proceeds from the exhibition will go to the World Wildlife Fund Singapore. Now, the exhibition is on from the 27th to the 29th, but customers can buy his works in the next 2 months until it goes to other destinations in Asia. Now, James, you will also be interpreting our very own Bukit Brown through your lens. Now, this is a very controversial issue in Singapore. Of course, you know Bukit Brown is more than a cemetery. It's symbolic of so many things on so many levels in Singapore. 100,000 graves, and all of this to be cleared for development. How did you even find out about this project?
I actually heard about Bukit Brown in some media back in New York. I don't recall exactly. I think it was online, and then speaking to a friend of mine from Singapore, I found out that his grandparents are actually buried at Bukit Brown. I recall when I heard about it, one of the things that really impacted me was the idea that there was a sacred promise made to people, and that promise seems like it's going to be broken. And I think there's a real disturbance in the psychic energy of the whole community based on that breaking of that promise.
So what do you intend to do?
When I go to a site such as Bukit Brown, I try and get involved with the energy there, the spiritual energy. I kind of have felt a spiritual energy drawing me there. In fact, just 2 nights ago, I dreamt of Bukit Brown. I have yet to go there, but
what did you see in this dream?
I actually saw what looked like a hand at first, but then I realized when I woke up, I believe it was a staghorn fern. I don't know if there's staghorn ferns at Bukit Brown or not, but I kind of thought...
Well, it's quite rich in biodiversity.
Yes, exactly. So I suspect it may be. And Bukit Brown represents a new collection that I'm working on called Extinction, where I'm interested in investigating sites that are at risk throughout the world and trying to preserve that for the future.
You haven't really visited the site yet.
I have not visited the site
because
yet,
you've just arrived in Singapore,
yes.
And actually we're very close to Bukit Brown, so you might want to drop by right after this interview.
Actually, we're planning on it, yes.
What are you planning on focusing on? Or you can't really plan these things, right? You've got to go there and take a look.
Yes, I investigate and I seek to find, seek to experience, seek to feel.
You said that you had a dream about Bukit Brown. This isn't the first time that a dream has informed your work,
no,
is it?
It's not. No, it's happening more and more of late. Actually, I actually had a dream of Shiva many years ago, maybe 12 years ago, and it kind of haunted me. It was a dream of a man with a snake around his neck, and many years later, I encountered some friends who had a guru and were devout meditators, and I discovered who Shiva was, and and the image stayed with me and haunted me in a beautiful way. And I have since just recently, I'm starting 2 collections now. Extinction. Bukit Brown launches a collection Extinction, and the Shiva piece launches a collection called Faith, where I want to look at religious art.
Right.
And in these pieces, I am creating kind of a photographic painting as a backdrop that I create with mathematical equations and push polar coordinates and wavelengths through a gradient.
English, please. I mean, what exactly does this mean?
I create a gradient, which is a fade of white to black, and I push an equation through a wavelength through so it transforms the gradient into new forms, into new shapes. And
what's this mathematical equation?
It's a function of Photoshop that we...
Okay.
But the wavelengths and polar coordinates continue to transform the image and create a painterly effect. There's many steps in the process. It can't be duplicated. I couldn't even duplicate it myself if I wanted to, because there's so many distinct creations in the doing. So they really, again, as I was saying about this idea of photography and painting, that become quite a painterly backdrop that I then use photographs put together, such as the Shiva and flowers and different items that to create these new pieces.
Why do you use that particular technique to give the pictures this feel?
Because I think the result has a mood. It has a spatial quality, and it has a luminosity, and it has a beauty that supports the content of the work.
I would say that every one of your works has a luminosity, and they all look almost surreal.
Yes.
So certainly a lot of interpretation here required. And
surrealist is certainly a keynote.
And now, what are your plans for the future after Origins?
Well, I'm really excited about the plans that we have with Gallery R to continue to work here in Singapore, to continue to spread the message of the connection of art and the environment that Rohinish had put together. And we're looking at opportunities in Dubai as well as Australia and India.
When are we going to get a look at the Bukit Brown work?
I don't know exactly. Sometimes these pieces can take several months, and even, as we said about the Shiva, it could be several years in the making.
That took about 12 years.
It took about 12 years, yes. Sometimes they come a little bit faster, sometimes they come a little bit slower. I'll be working on the Bukit Brown in my stay here, and looking forward to also shooting other deities as well as I had collected the Shiva. And
why this fascination for you with religious art as well?
I think that there's a hunger for spiritual foundations, and the modern world doesn't allow for that as much as we would like.
Do you believe in religion?
I do. I'm a very spiritual person. I don't necessarily associate myself with a particular organized religion, but rather kind of pieces of many different religions.
And how does this resonate for you through your work as well?
Well, I think that I aspire to open up the possibility of people to embrace their own spirituality. I don't think that the work is necessarily about my own spirituality, but about spirituality in general, spiritual touchstones, spiritual foundations.
Thank you very much, James. James Wilkins, he's here in Singapore for an exhibition called Origins. It will be happening from the 27th to the 29th of July at the Arts House, Gallery R. Now, 10% of the proceeds will be going to the World Wildlife Fund, Singapore. For more information, just go to galleryr.com.sg. Thanks for joining.